In Ending 2, we are going to explore the concept of opposition, which is an important principle to determine outcome of king and pawn against king in games. But first we are going to look at this position. The white pawn has reached the 6th rank, but the enemy king stands on the promotion square. However, with white move, white can still win by pushing the pawn to f7. This will squeeze the enemy king out of the promotion square. Now the white have to push the king forward to support the pawn. The black have nothing to do here. But in the next position, we will see how the result of this position's changes depend on who is on move. Now we're looking at the same position but with black to move, and black can hold the draw by playing g8, taking the opposition. The opposition involves the two kings at the same file with an odd number of squares in between. This is the most famous type of opposition, the direct opposition, when just one square between the two kings. But it can also be 3 squares or 5 squares. Once you have the opposition, your opponent has to move out of the way. You're passing the move to your opponent. And being the side on move is disadvantage in this scenarios. Black will play king g8, taking the opposition. So white now cannot get his king to 7th rank. And if he pushes the pawn e7, black can get back to stand in front of the pawn. The only move for white to stay protecting the pawn is king f6, and it's still mate. You must understand this position well, because it will be repeated frequently in tutorial videos and the games. This is another example where the opposition determines the outcome. So here white c-pawn is in 6th rank. If you push the pawn c7, king b7, and you're just going to lose it. And if you play king b6, black will play king b8, taking the opposition, and if you push c7, king c8. And we saw this position previously. In this position, white plays king b5. Black will play king c7 and stands in front of the pawn. White plays king c5. The only move for black is to move back directly c8. Whatever which side the white king go, take the opposition again. The right move for white is king a6, taking the opposition. Black only move is b8. King b6. If black plays king c8, push c7, squeeze king out of the promotion square. We saw this before. King d7. King b7 and pawn queening in the next move. In this position, black may play king a1. If you push pawn c7, it's still mate. You have to play king c8, king a2, king b2 and advance the pawn. There's something you need to know about the opposition. When you get the opposition, you lose it. If one of the squares you need to maintain it is out of reach. In this position, white on move. And it seems like a black got the opposition. But white will play f5, and the black can't play f7 to maintain the opposition. So he loses it. If he plays king g8, king g6, king f8, king f6 maintains the opposition. King e8. We're familiar with this position. e7, king d7, king f7. When a pawn comes closer to the edge of the board, specifically the bishop pawn and the rook pawn, this increases the draw chances. These pawns have unique roles different from other pawns. In this position, white in check. If he play g1, black will play g2, lead to the familiar squeeze. White can draw this position by playing h1, taking the diagonal opposition. Diagonal opposition is an important concept in king and pawn in games, especially with a knight pawn on the b or g file. Diagonal opposition occurs when the two kings are positioned on the same diagonal within one of squares separating them. And it's also being the side on move is disadvantage. In this position, it would be winning for black by playing king f2. If the pawn was toward the center of the board, but here it is still mate. And if black plays g2, white have to play king g1, and we saw this idea before. Here black may try something like f5, king g2, stands in front of the pawn, king g4, and if you focus, we saw this position before. And the only move is to move directly back to g1. Wherever which side black decide to go, you take the opposition.